Hello, welcome to CodeJoy's Chess Recaps. I just hit an all-time high of 2093, and I also beat the highest rated player I've ever beaten, 2178. I had white in this game. I started with d4. Then he plays this interesting move c5, and I know from practice that the best thing to do here is just ignore that pawn and push on forward. Gain some more space, ignore that tension because I don't want to let him exchange the flank pawn for a center pawn, and I also don't want to take because then he can play e5 and have his bishop come into the game, and so I decide to push past it. Then he immediately attacks it. My queen's already defending it. I can hop my knight out and defend it some more, but I decided to defend it with the pawn, and then I'll bring the knight out so the knight's not blocking my pawn. And my whole strategy is going to be defending that central point. It's nicely defended by the queen and the pawn right now, and soon to be a knight. So far, so good. Now he starts to threaten to castle kingside by fianchettoing his bishop. And I'm angry in this game because I'm trying to get to 2100 and I had just lost a game. So I'm kind of like really in attacking mode in this game. And I just immediately, at this point, I'm thinking, okay, I'll bring my knight out like I planned to control the center. But as soon as he starts to fianchetto and castle in this direction, I'm thinking, I'm not going to castle kingside. I am going to play h4 and just brutally attack him with my rook and see what he can do about it. So first I play e4, controlling the center, threatening e5 to attack his knight. And my e4 push is protected by my knight on c3. So far, so good. He blocks that push, so now his knight is not at risk of being attacked by a pawn because he would just take it. So he has d6. He's also developing his light squared bishop. So both his bishops are developed. Now you'll notice his knight on b8 is difficult to develop because it either blocks his bishop in or goes to the edge of the board or gets taken if he goes to c6 where he would normally go. That's the benefit of my pawn getting space on d5. So I love this opening for white. So here I play my bishop out, and maybe I'm thinking about castling kingside here, but really I want this bishop aimed at where he's going to castle. So long turn, I can play e5 at some point and liberate that bishop. It's not the perfect placement for it. Better would have been e2 probably, but it does add an extra level of defense to e4 where my pawn is kind of stuck right now. He castles, and then I play h4. Basically saying, if you don't play perfectly, I'm going to play h5, and when your knight takes, I'm going to play rook takes, and then when the pawn takes, I'm going to play queen takes on h5, and I'm just going to have a belligerent attack on your king, is kind of like the idea of h4. But ideally, I would want to build up with g4 and then h5 so I can take back with the pawn so I don't have to sacrifice my rook. But the idea is definitely to get the rook playing before his rook on a8 has any chance of playing. So he immediately shuts it down with h5, basically saying you can't play h5 because I played it first, and now his king is slightly more vulnerable. So the benefit of this position is he's castled and I haven't. Sometimes it's a disadvantage to not have castled, but in this position, I'm using it as an advantage because he castled so early that it let me know where to put my pieces to attack. And so now I come out with knight to f3. Basically saying maybe my attack's over, maybe I'll castle kingside, but maybe I'll hop that knight into g4 because his pawn on h7 can no longer go to h6 to kick it. So that square on g5 is a little bit soft. So knight to f3 threatens to hop the knight into g5. And also my bishop and pawn control that square. So now he hops his knight into my territory on g4, and I decide to play, instead of castling or developing my bishop on c1 is already controlling a lot of squares even without having moved. So right here I play knight h2 because my threat is if you do nothing, I'm going to take your knight, and then when your bishop recaptures, if your pawn recaptures, then my pawn on h4 can play h5 and my rook can be activated. If your bishop recaptures, I'm going to play f3, and then when your bishop retreats from f3, I'm going to play g4. And after the exchanges, my queen will protect the pawn on g4 and shut out his bishop, and I'll be able to play h5. So that's my plan. Best move for black in this position is to capture my knight and have my rook recapture and not allow what I'm threatening. But if he did that, I would still castle queenside and have f3, g4, and the rooks on the h file doubled up. And so, but that's the best way to play for black. But instead, he chooses to play in the center with e5. Now, I could play en passant here, and I was thinking about it, but I thought, no, this is my chance to take his knight. So I take his knight, bishop takes back, f3, bishop retreats, g4, and then he decides to hop his knight to a6. You'll notice he has to do that because otherwise he'd be blocking his bishop or getting killed. So from this post, he's threatening to play knight b4. And knight b4 would be good because it would attack my bishop on d3. So I decide to play a quick a3 just to prevent his knight from attacking my bishop, so I don't have to lose my bishop with check. And I'm gonna continue my attack on the king side, but I just took this moment to say your knight is dumb on the rim, and now you have to hop back to c7, which he does. But from c7, my pawn on d5 does a really good job of restricting his knight. So his knight really eventually should go to e8, but that's a hard move to see, even at our level. Basically, it can't come where it wants to come to e6 because my pawn on d5 controls that. So from here, it's ready. I'm ready to attack. So I take, and then he takes back. Now, I've opened up the avenue to his king. I have a rook on h1. I can play to g1 and be pinning his bishop to his king and start to attack his bishop. But first things first, I decide to attack his queen. Now, the bishop is preventing his queen from putting any pressure on my h4 pawn, which means my rook can go to g1. Whereas if I played rook g1 here, if I played rook g1, he would just take my pawn with check, and that would be really bad for me. So first I attack the queen, and the beautiful thing about this move is it defends h4, it activates a piece off the back row with tempo on the queen, and the only way to block this is to play the pawn up, but that would open his king up on the diagonal. It would also block his own bishop from influencing the center, and it would block his queen from attacking h4, and then I could just go back and still have my bishop activated, but basically this pawn move he can never take back, and it's inconvenient for him. So instead of doing that pawn move, he decides to slide the queen to the side. But now I can play my queen up to d2, and basically I'm threatening ideas like bishop h6, and if his bishop takes, I bring the queen in. Also rook g1, and then bishop h6, and then he can't even take because he'd be pinned to the king. So here he lashes out with f5, and this is a really interesting part of the game because he's trying to, now his queen's more involved, and his rook's more involved, and he's not blocking his bishop. His other bishop is starting to come into the game, which might get the other rook into the game. So I'm reluctant to capture here because then his bishop develops. But if I don't, he's threatening to play not takes in the middle, letting my knight in, but he's threatening to play f4, and f4 would shut out my bishop, and it would shut out the queen from talking to the bishop. So then bishop h6 wouldn't work because there'd be a pawn here interrupting the queen and the bishop battery. So I decided to take, and then he can't take it with the rook, so I would just take it, and he takes with the bishop. And now I was thinking bishop takes, rook takes, and then hopping the knight in, and just having a good knight. But then it occurred to me, you know what, it would be better is just to hop the knight in right away, because now I didn't get his rook activated, and my knight is threatening to attack his queen and his bishop, which would win a piece, basically. And if he takes my knight here, my bishop can recapture, and then I control his king side, and I'm unopposed because he would lose his light squared bishop, and I would still have one. So that would also defend my pawn on f3, which is rook is indirectly hitting. So really good move, really good idea to take here and then hop the knight in, because basically my knight on the... I want all my pieces attacking his king before he knows what's up, and I can checkmate him as quickly as possible. But my knight on c3 is kind of off to the side. But by taking here, it frees up the square for my knight, because my pawn is not there anymore. And so now my knight is where my pawn was, and I have a really good position. And he plays queen d7 with ideas. Maybe the knight can go back and defend the bishop. Maybe the rook can come into the game. He's also defending his bishop. And so here I play rook g1 because I don't need to guard the h4 pawn. The bishop is doing that, and the queen's not attacking it anymore because the queen is moved a couple times. Also, threatening bishop h6 ideas with rook takes and then winning the queen. And just getting on the same line as the king is a good idea in general. I've basically activated this rook successfully. He steps to the side. Now his bishop is free to capture if I play bishop h6. I can still play it because if he takes, I can recapture with the queen, and that's check. And then the queen would block, and I don't have a check on... I could win this pawn, basically, with that maneuver, but instead I decide to castle first, just in case I need extra rooks. So now I'm connecting the rooks, threatening to double up, and I still have the idea of bishop h6. So here he should probably play his rook over to help the bishop and help fight for this file, but he decides to try to attack me on the queen side. If I take, his knight can take, and then his queen and knight can kind of come and try to have some counterplay on my king. And I just completely ignore that and decide to go for my attack because his attack is too slow. For example, if he takes my pawn, which is his only threat, and threatens to win my bishop, I would just take his bishop with check, and then the queen can't recapture because the rook defends it, and then I could save my bishop. So I'd be winning a piece there. So he has to react to this. So he brings the rook over, finally, to defend, and now it looks like maybe my attack isn't working, but the beautiful thing is his knight is not part of this defense. Also, the pieces he has are all defending. My pieces are attacking, 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 ready to attack, definitely attacking, and super attacking, right? So, and his rook over here is doing nothing really. So I do have an attack here, and the attack is to take this bishop with check, even though it's defended twice, because he can't recapture with the queen, because the rook would kill the queen. So he has to take with the rook. Now, because he's taken with the rook and not the queen, it allows my queen in to check. And now he's in a predicament because my queen is in there, my knight's getting ready to hop in, my bishop's always kind of looking there, and My rooks can sacrifice at any time and bring another one. So here, if he blocks me with the rook, which looks like a logical move, it gives me this check on f6. And then from there, the king is completely dead. And so he would have to block with his queen, which I would take with the rook. And if he went here and I checked him and then he went back, the beautiful thing is I can actually take the rook, and when his queen recaptures the rook, I take the bishop. So my queen would be here, and I'm actually winning this bishop because I'm deflecting his queen from defending that. But anyway, he saw all that, so he decided to go this way because he didn't want to give me that check. But when he goes this way, now I'm looking at my position, and I'm like, wait a second, pattern recognition, that's a check, and your queen's dead, and he resigned. And it's also a checkmate because if the king goes here, I win the rook with check because the rook and the queen are attacking it. And if the king goes to, on the back row, f8, then I have queen h8 check. And he can never interpose with the rook because I have my rook controlling that file, and the queen and the rook beat the rook and the king. Also, the knight controls that. So anyway, I would check him. And then I'll show you real quick the checkmate. Okay, so if it's mate in 4, if he goes here, I would check, and then like I said, he can't block, so he would run, and then there's another check, and then when he takes my knight, even though I'm winning the queen, you just go check and mate. But anyway, I like that he just resigned right here. And just real quick to show that the attack is working, if he does do this, I check, and then I take, and I'm winning the bishop. I'm also in every variation winning this, and you can see I'm still +4. I'm always winning this pawn, but deflecting the queen is key because then you just win the bishop. And yeah, it's just a dominant win. Probably one of my best games ever. Best attacking games. I never even castled. Well, I castled queenside at the last second. But I didn't even have to. Like, you'll see that bishop h6 is working already. But I decided to castle and then play it. And I wonder if I had castled and he had immediately done this. Oh, then it lets me go this way. Okay. So that's why he didn't do that. So he waited till I went that way, then he defended. But it's Royal Fork, and that's the game. And to be honest, I was just going to take the queen. Like, if he went here, I was probably just going to take the queen. It's still checkmate, though. Because now that the queen is dead, this rook is under attack. It's pinned, and it's attacked twice. So the king is just dead. Super dead here. Like, I would play rook takes. And then, basically, attack the pin. Attack the pin again. And that's checkmate. So that's a pretty nice one. So anyway, I hope you enjoy. Thank you. God bless.